some thought from an economist point of view, not probably from a business or not from a, and from an economics point of view, like what you had said, going back into the original intention. Now, if you look at how economics is defined in terms of the school, they look at it as a social study that looks at behaviors of how individual businesses, government make decisions in terms of how to steward the resources that are out there. So you realize that there's a behavior part that's there. So if there's, and behaviors are mostly influenced by beliefs, experience, education that we receive. And so you find that there's a mindset, there's a perspective that we hold on to. And so going back into the original intent is very important because we then are able to capture what is the original intended plan that God had before we find ourselves here. And so when I wrote the book, The New Economy, I was basically saying we have to go back into the original order because the word economy in the Greek, it's oikonomia, which means stewardship. And so stewardship happens in different levels. It happens personally, individually, family. It happens in a business. It happens in a nation or in a global part. And so the questions are, what sort of behaviors, what sort of attitude that we put in as we steward our lives in terms of our talent, our time, and the resources that we have personally, but also translating it to our businesses, what sort of behaviors. Hence, we speak about doing things God's way, because then if the belief is wrong, then the behavior is going to be wrong and altered. And so just before I stop, so that I allow the discussion to flow, is that the fall of man, is where the problems start. Because when God put Adam and Eve in the garden, they had a right belief, if I were to put it. They had the right experiencing God in the cool of a day. They saw abundance in that garden. And so they had a right frame of thinking as to say, this is an economy. And their role was to be managers. And God expected them, as the earth developed, to have management systems, economic systems. And as the earth developed, then innovation comes in to develop the earth so that it has real time, access to all the data, how many animals, so we talk innovation now. So it was all trapped there. But the key was that their attitude towards stewarding, that they are not the owners, they are the stewards on behalf of God. And so the belief was proper. It was exactly like that. But you see, what happened was that when they fell into sin and they were taken out of the garden, so they now were exposed into a world where resources were scarce. And if you look at economics as an economic student, the definition they say that it's a social science that studies behaviors of how to manage scarce resources. And the truth is that we never had scarce resources. Something went wrong, and it's not the resources that actually disappeared. It's the limitation in terms of our perspective, where we are. So we're no longer in that zone, but we're outside in another world. And that's where we have to go back into that. So yeah,